Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us for Watch on the Water, an evening of ocean films. I'm Laura Banky. I'm the Vice President of Conservation Programs here at the National Aquarium, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this very, very special edition of the Marjorie Lynn Bank Lecture Series. The Aquarium has had the pleasure of hosting this lecture series for more than 15 years, and that's thanks to the generosity of the Bank family. As many of you know, Marjorie was a photojournalist, she was an environmentalist, she was a diver, and she was an explorer. And when she passed away in 1994, her family endowed these lectures in her honor. And it's been our pleasure, and it's been deeply gratifying to play a part in sharing Marjorie's love for the ocean and her sense of adventure with a community of like-minded folks. But in addition to recognizing the Bank family, I'd like to recognize our family of members and donors who help support our mission and allow us and make it possible for us to inspire conservation through our exhibits, through our education programs, through our conservation programs, and all of the things we do here at the National Aquarium. And I'd also like to acknowledge our fellow staff and volunteers. This is an amazing group of people that are very, very passionate about our mission, and I'm grateful to work amongst them every day. But about tonight's program, I'm honored to tell you about our partnership with the International Ocean Film Festival. They made tonight's event possible. Their mission is to save the ocean one film at a time. And they have sent us 5 short films that they're going to screen for us this evening. In a moment, I'm going to pass the podium on to Brian from the International Ocean Film Festival. But I do want to thank him and our staff for putting together a group of films that really highlight the priorities and the passion of the folks here at the National Aquarium. They showcase the wildlife, they showcase the habitats that make our blue planet so spectacular, but they also highlight some of its challenges like plastic pollution and climate change. But most of all, they inspire us to create solutions to make a better world for all of us. So without further ado, I want to introduce Brian Baird. He's a member of the International Ocean Film Festival Board of Directors, and he's going to share a few remarks about the film festival. But prior to his work with the festival, he served as the California Assistant Secretary for Ocean Policy, advising Governors Wilson, Davis, Schwarzenegger, and Brown of California. Also, he served as the chair of the National Coastal States Organization, chair of the Federal Marine Protected Areas Advisory Committee, director of the Bay Institute's Ocean Program, and a commissioner on both the California Coastal Commission and San Francisco Bay Conservation and Development Commission. Brian has had a lifelong passion for the ocean and grew up surfing, kayaking, snorkeling, sailing, and running along California's coast. So if you can join me in bringing Brian up to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. It's really a pleasure to be here this evening so far from my home. And I want to say greetings from the International Ocean Film Festival in San Francisco. It's been kind of a challenge for all of us in Northern California. I don't know how much of this reaches you, but we've had fires. We had a lot of fires, a lot of smoky skies, and some communities, including my community, went without power for days on end. So it's a tough time, and it says a lot about climate change and the things that are happening. We're having lower humidities, we're having higher winds, we're having some issues that are causing problems. So hopefully they've got the big fires out right now, and I'm just going to be a little nervous until we get some rain. But it was so interesting coming here and having this Arctic cold all of a sudden. I mean, it's very, very different from what I've been experiencing. We, the Aquarium and the festival, are ready to provide you with a fantastic program of ocean films tonight. The great thing is these films are fun, they're educational, they're meaningful, but they're really inspirational, and that's what kind of got me into this. A few brief words about the festival. We are not just a annual festival, we're a year-round conservation organization. As Laura said, the idea is to save the ocean one film at a time. I can't tell you how many issues have been influenced by film and by the passion and by seeing marine mammals killed or seeing horrible things happening with coral bleaching or whatever the issue is. Film can make a huge, huge difference. Our festival has grown to be the largest ocean-focused festival of its kind in the world. We've hosted films in Spain and Hong Kong, Russia, South Korea, and Germany, and cities across the United States. But this is our first time on the East Coast, and I'm kind of like a dyed-in-the-wool Californian. So it's great to be out here and kind of experience a new environment. So the films that we put on are everything you can think of coastal and ocean, marine wildlife, coastal cultures, conservation efforts, environmental issues, sometimes ocean sports. A surfing night is a standing room only every time. Ocean exploration, ocean adventure, et cetera. We invite artistic and policy discussions at our events following each of these films, and they're with the filmmakers that kind of get into their heads and what they were trying to do, and with policymakers and environmental groups and industry and academics and elected officials. But what's really important is is the audience, and oftentimes we get some amazing discussions going back and forth with members of the audience. We emphasize education. In the next year, we are going to, and we do this through fundraising, we just had a big gala, but we're going to send 1,200 San Francisco Bay Area middle school and high school students to the festival for free to get them into this, to get this idea of oceans into their heads. Thank you. And we want to inspire young filmmakers. And I'm not sure what was out on the desk out there, but we have our 9th annual student film competition, which is featuring short student films of 5 minutes or less at the middle or high school level. So if you any aspiring young filmmakers out there, this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be with some of the top filmmakers in the world. So what I'd like to do now is start us off with a short film on the International Ocean Film Festival. It'll kind of give you a sense for why I got into this and why I hope all of you will as well. So hopefully that gets your heart beating a little bit. That's the kind of thing that got me involved in this. And just a little background for my personal involvement in this. I had a 40-plus year career in ocean and coastal protection and management, and I did work with governors. I've worked with various federal administrations. I've done a lot of stuff. So I've worked on oil spills and power plant siting and declines in marine life and animal rescue. We've got experts here on that that issue, challenges in shoreline erosion, and of course climate change, which is sort of kind of an overview for all of this. And during my career, I've worked and testified at the local level, in the state, regional, national, and international levels to try to do something about protecting our coast and ocean. So basically, the point is, I was kind of in the trenches of ocean and coastal policy, and it was often quite intense. You begin to learn about the power of an attorney when you're sitting across the table and dealing with some of the legal issues and policy issues that we've had to over the years. However, I've always been intrigued with the intersection of art and science and policy and politics and what happens on the ground with ocean and coastal protection. And what's so great about this film program is that it's an ability to, film can help you learn about the ocean and its mysteries, and about the challenges with ocean health. And you're going to see just beautiful places, and it's an opportunity to get passionate, because that's what it takes right now. Film helps us convey the importance of the ocean for our very existence, and that's both literally the air we breathe, the environmental aspects of our world, and economically. And I've had to very much focus on the economics of oceans in my work throughout government. So film can and does influence public opinion, public policy, and legislative programs. Tonight you're going to learn a lot about people and their interactions with the ocean, but again, you're going to be exposed to some pretty spectacular imagery. I have to say I was particularly pleased to learn and impressed with the Aquarium's turtle rescue and release program, and we got the head of that here. And this phenomenon of cold stunning and its relationship to climate change. I mean, I had zero idea of this before I saw that film. I saw that film in preparation for tonight. So it's cool, and I really believe I have a general understanding of what it's all about. And the thing about this aquarium, and I used to work for another aquarium after government, but aquariums are at the front lines of education and conservation. And I just got to say, I applaud the efforts of the National Aquarium to do something like this that is so important. But also today I walked around this place and I just learned about so many things they're doing. So just a little hand for the National Aquarium and all the things they're doing. So onto our program. Some of the topics addressed in the films tonight do include plastics in the ocean, habitat and coral restoration, sort of some fun with plankton, and when you see the film you'll understand what I mean. Animal rescue and release, climate change, but I think also just the way many people live, play, and try to protect the ocean. And kind of a final note, I hope you stay for the final film. Because I'm kind of a curmudgeon about all this stuff. I've been doing this for 45 years. That film touched me, as all these do, but that film is good. And so I think give it a shot. Try not to leave early. So now I'm going to introduce the first two films you're going to see. The very first one is called Blue Carbon, the story from the Snohomish Estuary. The filmmaker is Sarah Joy Steele. And this is a film about the many benefits of wetland restoration in their estuary, particularly carbon sequestration, wildlife restoration, and shoreline stabilization. Very, very interesting film. Then the second film is Coral, Glimmer of Hope by Galen Rosenwachs. And this is a film that kind of educates you about how coral lives and the increasing threats of coral around the globe. And then some new discoveries where they're beginning to find some conditions where coral is being depleted all over the place, but certain areas it seems to be thriving, and they're trying to understand why so that maybe we can help restore these coral resources. So with that, we're on to the films. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Henley Moore, and I am the multimedia producer here at the Aquarium. And I'm going to introduce the next round of films. The first film in this set is Plankton by Gustav Lindstrom. And I think fun with plankton is the perfect way to describe it, and I think I'll leave it at that. The following films are both about topics we care about deeply here at the Aquarium. In Plastics is Forever, 13-year-old filmmaker Dylan DeHaze showcases the path of plastic trash as it makes its way from our daily lives to the ocean. The film also examines the effects of this trash once it's there. After that, you'll see a portion of a series called Cold Stunned that I created with my team here at the aquarium. Yeah. The series follows juvenile sea turtles from their rescue in Cape Cod after cold stunning events through their release back in Florida. The excerpt that you'll see tonight is the result of months of work from our animal rescue and animal health teams, the release. And after that, Kate, who is featured in this segment, and also the manager of our animal rescue team, will come back up and answer some questions. Thank you.
We're going to do just a little Q&A, and you should think about if you've got some questions, maybe about any of the films, but we wanted to kind of focus right immediately on the last film with the turtles. And Kate here is the one who really, I understand, ran the turtle rescue and is the real expert on this. And Henley made the film, and there are other films that you can see. But I guess I just thought maybe we could just start out with Kate just talking about, what are some of the challenges and some of the considerations for doing this. And Henley, just, what's it like trying to create messaging and getting these points across in film?
Sure. So I'm Kate Schaefer. I'm the rehabilitation manager here at the aquarium. Rehabbing turtles is very challenging. Every single turtle has different ailments that we're dealing with when they're coming in, and these particular turtles featured in the story, cold stun turtles, have been at cold temperatures in the water for weeks to months at a time, so they can have varying things going on with them, lots of severe pneumonias that we're dealing with, external wounds from being washed ashore on oyster beds, and they're coming to us, actually, most of these particular turtles, which you would see in the beginning of the series, from Massachusetts, so they kind of have a long journey before they even reach our door.
Yeah, so about creating messaging, this story is just really easy because it's sea turtles. And I think that we can all kind of get behind sea turtles and their rehab and that sort of thing. My team and I have a lot of conversations about making kind of complex ideas digestible for the larger public. And the way that we try to do that is trying to tell individual personal stories and connections with whether it's sea turtles or cleanups or anything like that. And that's usually the most powerful thing, because experts like Kate can tell it better than I can. So, yeah.
And Henley always makes us look good, so.
Thank you. So I can ask some more questions, but there's some questions out there with regard to this issue, or maybe if you want to make a comment about any of the other films. We've got somebody right here. And it's kind of loud.
Okay. Do you know how many turtles have been completely through the rescue center? How many have you taken in and released? Ballpark?
Yeah, I can give you a ballpark. So she asked how many turtles we have rehabbed and released from the program. And I just did a presentation on this, but I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but we're in around the 250 range of animals that we've released. Thanks. And actually, to give you an idea, about 80% of those have been since 2014 and have been cold stun chemically sea turtles.
Was the 200th this season?
I think Phil, so 2017.
Oh, animal. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, up there?
Very good question. So she asked about the numbers that you saw in the video on the turtle shells. So that is just actually a way for us to identify the turtles when they're undergoing rehabilitation. So each turtle has its own unique number, and that helps us keep track of making sure the right turtle is getting the right medications and treatments throughout rehab. But it is not a non-permanent marking, so it will wash off. And actually, we usually switch them out to kind of a darker number when they're going back for release and make them a little bit smaller. We've sort of changed our practice over the last couple of years so that we don't interrupt counter shading or any of the natural processes when they go back into the water. Great question.
I've actually got a follow-up to that. Do you have any tracking of success? Is there any way that you put any kind of markings on them or what have you?
Yeah. So we do tag the turtles. So they receive a flipper tag, actually 2 flipper tags on their rear flippers, and then a pit tag, which is kind of like a microchip that you would put in your cat or dog that has a unique identifying number. And that way, if the turtle ever strands again, is captured during a research project or any other sort of field work that's happening, the turtle can be identified, and there's a database of those numbers that's kept by the University of Florida. And we actually get emails periodically about certain tag numbers that say like, oh, this animal was seen nesting or was captured in another program. So it's always really interesting when we get that information back.
Okay. What else? Some other questions out there somewhere. Let's see.
So the rehab program started here in 1991. So we're over 20, I think it's what, 7 years?
28.
28 years, thank
As
you.
old as me.
You can't do my math while I'm standing
That's
up
a
here.
storyteller. And then we had another. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, when you have the cold stone turtles, do you do any like research as to like what's affecting them this season and how it changes from last season, like as far as record keeping and just kind of like monitoring the changes with them, or is it mostly just like rehabilitation and then sending them back out without research?
So our role here at the National Aquarium, so you asked about whether or not we do research on the different parameters for the season, what might be affecting the animals up from year to year. So here at the aquarium, our main focus is the rehab part of the process, but we do have a lot of partner organizations that are looking into those types of factors, particularly the Massachusetts Audubon Society is the group that's walking the beaches and picking up the turtles, and they do take a lot of environmental information, and they actually have some really great published papers that kind of tie climate change to the cold stunning turtles up in Massachusetts. So I would recommend looking on their website and looking for some of those papers.
That's actually the first installment of the series too, not the research part, but with them in Cape Cod picking up turtles. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
So she asked what type of turtles we work with. So the main species that we receive here are Kemp's ridleys, which is the most endangered species of sea turtle in the world. But we also see loggerheads and greens pretty regularly. In this area, you could potentially see a hawksbill turtle, but they're usually more of a tropical species. We don't get them too often. And leatherbacks are also found in this area, but don't usually come into rehab due to their size and their offshore nature. Good question.
Right here.
Where can we watch the series?
Yeah, so you can find it on our social media channel, Facebook. They're all there. And then if you go to aqua.org and you search Cold Stun, it should come up through our blog series as well. Yeah, it's 4 parts. So.
We got a couple more in the back.
Back up here.
So sea turtles, she asked, why are we releasing them in Florida if they stranded in
That's a good
Massachusetts? Very good question. So these turtles are traveling up and down the coast. They don't have a specific area within the U.S. where they would hang out and spend their entire span. They actually travel up north during the summertime to feed. There's lots of great resources up there, and Cape Cod is sort of like a trap. The turtles want to head south for warmer waters, but it sort of, kind of funnels them in, and they get stuck there, and then the water temperatures drop, which will all be explained in the first series. I really recommend that you guys go back and watch it. But so this time of year, the winter season, when the animals are actually getting ready to be released, they would be naturally found down in Florida. So we actually take on the role for the network and do these transports 3 to 4 times per year when the other rehab facilities, especially those up in Massachusetts, are kind of in the height of their season and in the thick of it with treating hundreds of turtles. We lead these transports. So we'll take turtles from all the facilities north of us that have animals ready for release, and we'll actually kind of lead these transports down south, and that way they're not sitting in a rehab for extra month or two waiting for the teams to be able to have the resources and the time to take them. And so it's actually been a kind of a unique role that the National Aquarium has taken on over the last 3 years that we're quite proud of.
Why don't you just mention a little bit more about the relationship with climate change and the temperatures being warmer and what kind of created this situation in the first place?
Yeah, so one of the things that really is shocking is that the Gulf of Maine, where these turtles are going up to feed, is actually the second fastest warming body of water in the world. And so it's attracting more and more turtles in during the summer months. But because they are cold-blooded animals, their body temperature is going to affect their body functions. So when they get drawn into the Gulf of Maine and into Cape Cod Bay to feed, and then the temperatures start to drop, their body functions are going to slow. So their metabolism slows down, they're not eating, and eventually they just kind of become at the mercy of the wind and the waves, and they get pushed ashore. But the warmer the water is and the longer it's staying warmer, it's attracting more animals into the bay. There's more different types of crabs and crustaceans and things that these animals are actually attracted to flourishing in that area because of these warmer temperatures, so bringing more turtles in. And there's some different hypotheses about something called the warm water bridge, which is like a bridge of warm water that forms that allows the turtles to come in, but then it dissipates and disappears, and then they can't get back out using the bridge because it's no longer there.
I think it's
And that's all available in the film. But that's one of the films that I saw that explains
Parts
it.
of it.
I think one of the cool things also to keep in mind is that that sea turtles and this kind of display, like that all of this effort that's being put in is actually kind of working. Bob Prescott, who is in the Welf Fleet Bay video, the first one, he talks about so these turtles have always kind of come in there and they've always been found there, but they haven't been found as much. Part of that could also be global warming, but also it's that all of the efforts that are going in through Endangered Species Act and the work that's being done with the nesting turtles, there's just more turtles out there to kind of strand as well. So I think that that's something to remember as well, that it's kind of a victory. You know, it's a sad victory, but it's a victory.
All right. Yeah. I think it's back there.
What are the limitations of the program facing right now? Are all the turtles that are affected each season able to find rehab centers, or are there turtles that you have to provide?
So up in Massachusetts, they get maybe 300, 400 turtles on average from year to year, but there are particular years that have been really high. So in 2014, over 1,200 sea turtles stranded in Cape Cod, and that's really it sparked a lot of places to bulk up their efforts. So a lot of facilities from, Maine to Florida, even over to Texas, are taking more and more turtles each year to help accommodate for these and stepping up. There's been a lot of new rehabs that have formed. There's a new facility in New Jersey. There's a new facility in Pennsylvania that are taking rehab turtles. So we're stepping up and making an effort, and certain rehab facilities. So the New England Aquarium is a huge part of the effort, being the main kind of triage facility for turtles up in Massachusetts. And so they'll take them in, triage them, and then dispatch them to other areas. But they're even getting to the point where if we have multiple years of 1,200 turtles hitting the beach with 700 or 800 needing rehab, they're maxing out their resources as well and looking at different priorities. And the turtles are a big focus of the aquarium community. Yeah, so the Pittsburgh Zoo has a facility within their zoo called, I think it's Second Chance or something, Sea Turtle Second Chance, and then Sea Turtle Recovery Center in New Jersey at Turtleback Zoo, I believe.
It's an amazing discussion, and I keep reflecting on how it was sparked by just a few minutes of film. And so I wondered if you could talk, Henley, a little bit about, how you got into film, or advice you have for people who are interested in trying to tell stories a little bit like this one.
Yeah, sure. So I started taking pictures when I was in high school, and then that kind of just evolved into making videos. And I didn't go to film school or anything like that. I have a philosophy background. Yeah. When I graduated, I then worked at a local newspaper. And there I kind of really fell in love with story and kind of this everyday story that can happen, and the power of telling those stories. And And then I just kept making them, and then I kept applying, and then I didn't think I was going to get this job, and then I got this job. So it was nice. Thank you, David. And then advice. I think like the best piece of advice I ever got was just make it. Just make it, get it out, and keep making it. And eventually it'll go somewhere. Like I never got paid for something that I didn't make in some way, shape, or form first. And I was super lucky to be able to do that. But I think, yeah, just make a story, because that's how you learn. Especially with filmmaking, the best way to learn is to fail. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we have just a few more minutes.
Are there like the same turtles going through the programs, or are there like new ones each year?
Good question. So she asked if we get like repeat visitors to rehabilitation. So most of them are first-time stranders, but there have been a few occasions in my career where I've heard of a turtle stranding again, and a turtle that was released in Florida coming back and stranding the very next season up in Massachusetts. So it does happen on occasion. Yeah.
You? Was that a question, or that was just?
Okay, I was just wondering, so you say you were talking about Cape Cod and like Maine. Do you ever get any turtles in Chesapeake Bay, or do they not come around this area?
Yeah, so we do get a few local strandings as well. Some in the Chesapeake Bay, some down in like Ocean City area. We this particular year had 3 cases that came to us from like Ocean City, Assateague area. Not super common. We have a pretty small piece of coastline, but we do get calls about animals. The majority of local strandings, though, are not cold stuns. They're usually boat strikes, entanglements, debilitated loggerhead syndrome, which is sort of just like an animal that's super underweight and probably has some disease processes going on, but not usually cold stuns here.
I think we're going to do one more.
We got one in the way back.
Oh, there is somebody way back.
Here you go.
Over there. Okay.
With climate change warming the waters, do you expect to see more, like you said, Hawksville are typically tropical, do you expect to see them more often, and will that be affected, like, is your program specifically designed to help camps best because you see them the most, like, is there any?
So I can't really predict what we're going to see. Obviously, there's potential that we may see some of the warmer water species coming further north and potentially coming in. We can adapt our practices to different species. Hawksbills are rehabbed all the time down in the southern states and in the Caribbean, so I'm sure we could borrow practices from those facilities to adapt to them as needed. But we are seeing more turtles. Nesting is coming further north each year, so I believe this year there was 4 sea turtle nests in Assateague Island. There was only a couple year before, and kind of a few years back that was sort of unheard of that we would see turtle nests in this area, and even further north, places like Long Island are seeing turtle nesting periodically as well. So the temperatures of the water are affecting the animals in many different ways.
All right. I think we're going to conclude it there. I want to thank both our experts here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, I'm introducing the next film. 1 second. Okay. So when my team and we talk about films that inspire us, tonight's feature is always talked about. Fish People, it's called Fish People. First of all, it's a beautifully filmed documentary. But the reason we often talk about it, it's because director Keith Malloy takes this large kind of ethereal idea that the ocean is this like wondrous and vast place, and he brings that back to reality and what that means through these 6 subjects. He just shows us what the ocean gives to them so that we can understand what it can give to us. I hope you enjoy it a fraction of the much that I enjoy it. So enjoy.
Wow. It's really hard to follow that. I do want to just let everybody know, I hope that you all are as inspired by the kind of intersection of art and film and story making as I have been throughout the evening, specifically as how it helps us be inspired for conservation purposes. So thank you for joining us. Specifically for this night of ocean films, thank Brian from the International Ocean Film Festival. Yay. For these 5 amazing films that have been truly inspirational. I do want to add that if you're interested in the International Ocean Film Festival, you can look on their website. It's oceanfilmfest.org. This is the last Marjorie Lynn Bank Lecture Series of the year, but we will have another series starting in 2020. So we want you to be able to keep an eye out for that. Please visit aqua.org/lecture for more information about this series. You can watch past lectures on that, and you can find out more information about our 2020 program. You can also visit aqua.org if you're interested in being on our email list. But I again want to thank Brian and the International Ocean Film Festival and for all of you for joining us this evening for an evening of ocean films. Thank you very much, everyone.